Have you been seriously injured? Mama Justice is here for you. Our medical team partners with top-notch doctors, surgeons, therapists, and urologists, ensuring a comprehensive recovery journey. While our legal team, proven in securing million-dollar settlements, will fight fiercely on your behalf. With Mama Justice, you aren't just a client, you're family. Lean on us for both your healing and your rights. If you've been injured, call Mama Justice today. We're here for you.
TV. Happy to welcome my first guest this morning, Maurice Sanderson, GOP strategist, former policy director with the Republican Governors Association. It's been a while, Marie. Great to see you this morning. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning. Great to see you too this morning.
So we talked yesterday a fair amount about the State of the Union address. What did you take away?
Look, I think the president, a goal of any president, particularly in the second term, is to double down on the accomplishments. I think he did that. I think he created an opening that Republicans really needed on immigration. That is an issue that was overwhelmingly popular for Republicans when he ran, and I think had ceded some ground on that. I think he's given Republicans an ability to talk more about immigration, given that made-for-TV moment that happened during the State of the Union on immigration in particular. But look, the State of the Union is the State of the Union. Every year you have kind of the same antics at this point, which has been kind of par for the course over the last 5 to 10 years. You have people that don't show up. You have people who yell. Then you argue the next couple of days if you're going to censure said members. But I think overall, the president did what the president needed to do and did no harm.
The truth of the matter is the State of the Union doesn't really move the needle in terms of election outcomes. I mean, if you're looking at immediate polling, sometimes there's a little bit of a bump for the president who gives the address, but it doesn't have any lasting value, generally speaking. Does this have any lasting value? You mentioned the kind of the viral moment where he asked Democrat representatives and senators to stand if they wanted to put America's first. They didn't. I mean, is the lasting value what we're going to see in campaign ads?
I think you're right. Yeah. I mean, look, the State of the Union doesn't make a lot of news. People are more interested in seeing the men's hockey team at the White House and on screen than they were about what the president had to say. It's late at night. So, people like you and me stay up and watch it. I'm not sure the public did. But yeah, I think the punchline is it did create an opportunity for Republicans to go on offense on immigration. And a picture speaks 1,000 words, and they got that at the State of the Union.
Curious your reaction on this. I thought the president was a little more restrained and a little more on topic than he sometimes is. We know that his speaking style is one where he kind of wanders off in different directions and he ad-libs a lot. Thought specifically with how he talked about the Supreme Court decision, there was way more restraint there than we have seen in the past.
I agree with you. I think, look, the president, as I've said on your show and people know, like, he's hands-on. There was nothing that was delivered that was not approved by him and thought by him and debated by him. So I think the way he handled the Supreme Court was absolutely calculated. I thought there was some restraint there. I think there was obviously a lot of advice from his team about how to handle that. And I think, again, it could have been a moment where Democrats could have gone on offense about how he handled that. And I think he did no harm and made his point, but did no harm in how he handled the Supreme Court.
All right, so moving this forward into governing and legislating, but doing so with the calendar in mind, because we're now fully turning our attention to the midterms. We've got primaries here in Mississippi in less than 2 weeks. I guess 2 weeks from this past Tuesday. That's about to happen all over the country, and that's where so much attention is going to go. But the Congress still has to work. And the Save America Act is in the Senate's court at this point. Leader Thune says that they are going to bring it to the floor, says that they are going to have a vote, but has seemed reticent to put the talking filibuster into place. When you look at this issue that people are calling an 85-15 issue, with 85% of Americans being for this act that would create voter ID and proof of citizenship to register to vote. What's going on here? Help us understand the slow play with the Senate.
Well, everything's more complicated in the Senate, and every issue is more complicated. Every vote is more complicated. And I think what you're seeing with Leader Thune is an inability to confirm that he will have all Republicans vote the way they need him to vote. The reality is, if you put the bill on the floor and you don't have certainty, then you can create a situation where the Democrats can take advantage of opening up various code sections. That is not what we want. The leader wants to be very tight and very organized if he brings this bill to the floor. So on its face, it's a great talking point that we're going to have voter ID in elections and everybody should vote for it. The reality is that every bill is more complicated, and he's having trouble holding the caucus together. And I think the leader wants to deliver this, but he also doesn't want to have an unintended consequence and let Democrats do something to this legislation that Americans don't want.
I don't know if you can answer this or not. It's the same people every single time. When we look at the senators who are on the fence on controversial issues, are on the fence on issues that seem to be slam dunks for Republicans. You have worked as a GOP strategist. You've worked with Republican governors. You've worked with Republicans in the House and the Senate. What is it about Mitch McConnell, about Lisa Murkowski, about Susan Collins, apparently about Jim Cassidy in this place, or is that right, Jim Cassidy from Tennessee? These senators that always seem to be kind of right there on the, well, not sure that we're going to vote for this particular Republican cause.
Well, an unpopular understanding is that there's always more than the issue at hand, right? They may be negotiating on another issue where they've asked the leader, and so they're withholding their support on something that's really important to the leader in order to get something else they may want, a legislation they want passed or something for their state. But yeah, I mean, there is a group of moderate Republicans. I would put Tillis in that bucket, where they don't just vote in block, and it is frustrating for the leader, and it's always been that case where you have that group. But they tend to represent the states from which they're elected. So Susan Collins is not always a reliable vote for Republicans. I would argue, if I'm on her team, she has to vote certain ways in order to get reelected. And we need Susan Collins to get reelected in order to maintain our majority in the Senate. And so, she does get a certain leash from the leader in order to take the votes she needs to take for her constituents so she can run again and win, because we as Republicans need her to win in order to maintain the Senate. So as it relates to retiring senators, that's more time than we have on your show to talk about, where they are in their history.
So I feel like this always needs to be said if you're talking about Mitch McConnell, who had a long run as the majority leader in the Senate. The makeup of the Supreme Court today is largely to the credit of Mitch McConnell, because he did not allow Barack Obama before he went out of office to get that last judicial appointment. And it's a really, really big deal. And yet, with that said, there's this story that it's his team, it's his office that is making the decisions more so than he is making the decisions at this point. It's abundantly clear that there are health issues related for former leader McConnell. So how often does that happen, where a chief of staff or a policy director or an office staff is kind of the puppet master for a sitting senator?
Well, you have to understand how much responsibility these senators have. And so it is critically important that there's a chief of staff in place in any office that is trusted by the member. And so they do have a lot of power. Our chief of staffs for our Mississippi senators are fantastic. I know them personally, and they're doing a great job. And yeah, Senator Wicker and Senator Hyde-Smith trust them a lot to give them good advice and to help make decisions, because senators cannot be everywhere every time. With the situation where you have a retiring senator whose health may be waning, the chief of staff certainly has an extra amount of power. We've heard concerns about that. Senator Byrd back in the day, Senator Stevens, There were concerns about Senator Cochran, but they hold those seats because their constituents elected them, and their constituents need them to maintain that power and that vote. And so they have that with the power of their staff until they retire.
What's your gut feeling? Does the Senate ultimately get the SAVE Act to the floor, and do they get it passed?
Well, I hate to be negative, but I think this is going to be hard. But when the president gets involved and the president wants something, and he works with the leadership, we've seen rabbits be pulled out of hats. So this morning it looks tough, but I've seen miracles and I've seen things happen on process with the president getting involved.
Those margins are absolutely razor thin. Marie, always appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us this morning, and look forward to visiting with you again soon.
Thanks for having me, Richard. Have a great day.
You as well. We'll take a time out. We're back with you after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.